spring, an ardent lover leaped through leaves and caught the earth bride in his eager clasp. His advent was far of erased hues. His arms were a circle of the arrival of joy.
Good morning. So we're starting Book 4, the Book of Birth and Quest. We're in Canto 1, the birth and childhood of the flame. We've come to the top of page 352, the second line. So at the end of the last book, Aswapati had ascended the summits of the consciousness and encountered the Divine Mother, asked her to incarnate in a divine body, descend upon earth to transform it. And she agreed at the end. And now there's a little transition in which Sri Aurobindo takes us through the 6 seasons of India. And on page 349, in the middle of the page, he says, "In ceaseless motion round the purple rim, Day after day sped by like colored spokes, and through a glamour of shifting hues of air, the seasons drew in linked, significant dance, the symbol pageant of the changing year. So he suggests that these seasons, the turning of the seasons, are symbolic. And then he begins with summer. Across the burning languor of the soil paced summer with his pomp of violent noons, and stamped his tyranny of torrid light and the blue seal of a great burnished sky. And I had suggested that perhaps this symbol pageant in one sense may represent the evolution. And this summer, which is only briefly described here in these 4 lines, might represent matter, because we have this burning languor of the soil, this oppressive silence or stillness of the earth. And then we have this blue seal of a great burnished sky. And even this burnished is a term that kind of refers to polished metal. So the sky is even kind of polished like matter, like steel. And then he takes us through the next season, the rainy season. And this has quite a long description, and it in many ways represents the vital. First we have the rain, but then we also had tempest. Pronunciamentos claim the sky, and thunder drums announce the embattled gods. So he presents it almost as a battle. Thick now the emissary javelins, enormous lightning split the horizon's rim. And then the rain and the wallowing in sludge and shower, it reached black dark. Day a half-darkness wore as its dull dress. And he goes further into this sense of the lower vital, and turn dry soil to bog and reeking mud. Earth was a quagmire, heaven a dismal block. None saw through dank, drenched weeks the dungeon sun. And then this turmoil subsides. Earth's mood now changed. She lay in lulled repose. The hours went by with slow, contented tread. And then he describes 3 thoughtful seasons passed with shining tread, scanning one by one the pregnant hours, watched for a flame that lurked in luminous depths, the vigil of some mighty birth to come. And then he describes these 3 seasons, Autumn led in the glory of her moons and dreamed in the splendor of her lotus pools, and winter in due time laid their calm, cool hands on nature's bosom, still in a half-sleep, and deepened with hues of lax and mellow ease the tranquil beauty of the waning year. So after the material and vital, we have these three seasons quickly coming in succession, which may represent kind of more the mental stage of the evolution. They're quiet, more balanced, and also even looking up towards God. And then comes spring. An ardent lover leaped through leaves and caught the earth bride in his eager clasp. His advent was a fire of irised hues. His arms were a circle of the arrival of joy. His voice was a call to the transcendent sphere, whose secret touch upon our mortal lives keeps ever new the thrill that made the world. So this is the sixth season, spring. And we're still reading in this, the description of this season. So let's continue.
This line 24, what does he mean by knotted, clotted knot? Next, summer, next is by spoon or clotted knot?
Yeah, that is,
The 24.
I don't have the line numbers, but
First page, around the 8-10 lines from the bottom.
yeah, it's, I still don't see it, but it's the clouds. They're all, they're black, they're thick, they're knotted with rain. See, it's the season, it's very hot and very humid at the same time. And so there's this fiery swoon and clotted knot. This clotted knot almost maybe represents that heavy humidity. But it's also the clouds, because through them rain tide burst in upon torn wings of heat. So let's begin at second line on page 352.
His coming brought the magic and the spell. At his touch life's tired heart grew glad and young. He made joy a willing prisoner in her breast. His grasp was a young god's upon earth's limbs. Changed by the passion of his divine outbreak, he made her body beautiful with his kiss. Impatient for felicity he came, high fluting with the coil's happy voice, his peacock turban trailing on the trees. His breath was a warm summons to delight. The dense voluptuous azure was his gaze. A soft celestial urge surprised the blood, rich with the instinct of God's sensuous joys. Revealed in beauty, a cadence was abroad, insistent on the rapture thrill in life. Immortal movements touched the fleeting hours. A godlike packed intensity of sense made it a passionate pleasure even to breathe. All sights and voices wove a single charm.
Thank you. One change that comes with the spring is that the gender changes. Before he was speaking of the seasons as feminine, referring to the earth. And then he says, then spring, an ardent lover, leaped through leaves and caught the earth bride in his eager clasp. Mm-hmm. Mm. But here it's almost like a descent of something is coming into the earth. And this is the season when Savitri also comes. So, and the spring brings this renewal of life on the earth. So his coming brought the magic and the spell. At his touch, life's tired heart grew glad and young. He made joy a willing prisoner in her breast. His grasp was a young god's upon earth's limbs. Changed by the passion of his divine outbreak, he made her body beautiful with his kiss. And then he says, and he brings this joy, happiness, impatient for felicity he came, high fluting with the coil's happy voice. And this is this bird that's native to this area. This, we call it brain fever sometimes, but it's this large bird with the brown wings that has this kind of piercing one note that it keeps repeating all the time. Coil. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Hmm. He does say, autumn led in the glory of her moons. But I just said autumn. Okay. So, anyway, spring brings this God into nature and brings this sense of renewal and happiness and beauty. So now we can continue and you can read. The light.
The life of the enchanted globe. The life of the enchanted globe became a storm of sweetness and of light and song, a revel of color and of ecstasy, a hymn of rays, a litany of cries. A strain of choral priestly music sang, and swung on the swaying censer of the trees, a sacrifice of perfume filled the hours. Ashokas burned in crimson spots of flame, pure like the breath of an unstained desire. White jasmines haunted the enamored air. Pale mango blossoms fed the liquid voice of the love-maddened coil, and the brown bee muttered in fragrance mid the honey buds. The sunlight was a great god's golden smile. All nature was at beauty's festival.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a container in which they put incense in church and they swing it and the incense is burning. So this is the final passage on spring. And it seems he brings in a little bit of this religious symbolism here, but it's as if a kind of opening sacrifice to the gods, to the divine. Also this, a hymn of rays, a litany of cries. These are also kind of religious type terms. A litany is a prayer with a series of invocations, each followed by an unvarying response. Kind of a classic thing in the Catholic Church that we would do. And the choral priestly music sang, and swung on the swaying censer of the trees. A sacrifice of perfume filled the hours. So it's kind of an offering to the divine, but also filled with this beauty, delight. White jasmines haunted the enamored air. Pale mango blossoms fed the liquid voice of the love-maddened quail, and the brown bee muttered in fragrance mid the honey buds. The sunlight was a great god's golden smile. All nature was at beauty's festival. And so now we have the Advent. So Helmut, would you continue?
In this high signal moment of the gods, answering Earth's yearning and her cry for bliss, a greatness from our other countries came. A silence in the noise of earthly things immutably revealed the secret world. A mightier influx filled the oblivious clay. A lamp was lit, a sacred image made. A mediating ray had touched the earth, bridging the gulf between man's mind and God's. Its brightness linked our transience to the unknown. A spirit of its celestial source, aware, translating heaven into a human shape, descended into the earth's imperfect mold and wept, not fallen to mortality, but looked on all with large and tranquil eyes. One had returned from the transcendent plains and bore anew the load of mortal breath, who had striven of old with our darkness and our pain. She took again her divine unfinished task, survivor of death and the Ionic years, once more with her fathomless heart, she fronted time.
Thank you. So we have the birth of Savitri. But Sri Aurobindo describes it so subtly that you could almost pass by this. He describes her coming as a greatness from our other countries came. And then a silence in the noise of earthly things immutably reveal the secret word. A mightier influx fill the oblivious clay. So the clay is the material form, oblivious, unaware, unremembering, unmindful, but something comes into it. Yeah, it seems that way.
Generalizing the whole world or the whole universe. Our country is same, not one country, all our countries.
But I don't think he's speaking of physical countries on earth. He's speaking of the realms above earth, no? The other planes of consciousness, the higher planes. And it's interesting that she brings both a silence in the noise of earthly things, and that silence immutably revealed the secret word. So she brings both the silence and the word, the divine word. A lamp was lit, a sacred image made. A mediating ray had touched the earth, bridging the gulf between man's mind and God's. Its brightness linked our transience to the unknown. So perhaps there is the significance, in a sense, of avatarhood, that it creates this link between the divine and man's mind, earth. And then he describes her, a spirit of its celestial source aware. She's aware, even from her birth or from her early childhood, of her divinity, translating heaven into a human shape, descended into earth's imperfect mold, and wept, not fallen to mortality, or we should say, and wept not, fallen to mortality, but looked on all with large and tranquil eyes. So she wept not, she's not feeling sorrow at her descent into this mortality, but looks at it calmly, faces it. And then he describes her as not coming for the first time. One had returned from the transcendent plains and bore anew the load of mortal breath, who had striven of old with our darkness and our pain. She took again her divine unfinished task, survivor of death and the eonic years. Once more, with her fathomless heart, she fronted time. So she has come over and over in many births to work for the evolution of earth, to bring it back to the divine. Her task still unfinished. So once more she faces time. Margaret?
Again there was renewed, again revealed, the ancient closeness by earth's vision veiled, the secret contact broken off in time, a consanguinity of earth and heaven, between the human portion toiling here and an as yet unborn and limitless force. Again, the mystic deep attempt began, the daring wager of the cosmic game. For since upon this blind and whirling globe, Earth's plasm first quivered with the illumining mind, and life invaded the material sheet, afflicting in conscience with a need to feel. Since in infinity's silence woke a word, a mother wisdom's works in nature's breast, to pour delight on the heart of toil and want, and press perfection on life's stumbling powers, impose heaven's sentience on the obscure abyss, and make dumb matter conscious of its God.
Thank you. So he gives something of the significance of her work, her mission. He describes this closeness between earth and heaven, earth and the divine, the ancient closeness, by earth vision veiled, a closeness we don't see or feel, the secret contact broken off in time, a consanguinity of earth and heaven. This consanguinity is a relationship by blood or common ancestor, a close affinity, more broadly, between the human portion toiling here and an as yet unborn and limitless force. Yeah, I think it's more, I get a sense of it being more a term referring to the manifestation in a general way. So that is occurring in time. There is the eternal divine and the lower manifestation here, at least, in time. So that contact is not seen here, but perhaps also then it is slowly unveiled in the course of time. And that's what she's striving to do. But there is this the sense of force, the human portion, toiling here. We struggle with our limited force. And then, but in heaven, and what is yet to be here, is an unborn and limitless force. So she's also joining these two. Again, the mystic deep attempt began, the daring wager of the cosmic game. The whole cosmos is kind of like a game, a leela, a manifestation of the divine, but one in which all sorts of forces are allowed to play. The outcome seems uncertain, at least here on the earth.
It implies that there was still uncertainty whether she will be able to do the job this time or not. Look from this paragraph. The game and the dice game, and then it's a wager again this time. Let's say we mention what Savitri came for, what Kaliskan came for.
Yeah, he doesn't make it a foregone conclusion. He speaks of it as an attempt still. It's just beginning. The daring wager of the cosmic game.
The author is implying that we were sure that Savitri will come for do what she is supposed to do. She is divine mother. But here I'm just pointing out the slight contradiction which I think is. Generally, it is true, but Ashwati wanted some divine mother to come in and make that big difference. Sister will eventually come. That's what she wanted, and she was given.
It as, the possibilities of what could have happened if the Allies had lost, that the Earth could have been set back thousands of years or in its evolution. So, and it was a battle, it was a fight, it wasn't a simple matter, I think. And so perhaps, eventually the way Sri Aurobindo presents it is that this outcome will happen, this divine flowering. But when, it's always a kind of open question, because there's this play of forces that are taking place, and it can be delayed or it can accelerate. It depends on factors, perhaps also on us to some extent, how quickly it goes. And he even mentions that the race could have failed if we had lost that war, as others in the past have failed, he said. So there were other creations also that had failed, and there had to be a renewal again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when it manifests, that means you lose contact. That's what it means. When something. That's what I'm saying. You don't lose contact. The inherent oneness is there. Divine presence is there. Presence is there. Likewise, in Auroville will be possible. But it has to be worked out. The way has to be used, and that's the way.
Okay, we'll continue.
Although our fallen minds forget to climb, although our human stuff resists or breaks, she keeps her will that hopes to divinize clay. Failure cannot repress, defeat, or overthrow. Time cannot weary her, nor the void subdue. The ages have not made her passion less. No victory she admits of death or fate. Always she drives the soul to new attempt. Always her magical infinitude forces to aspire the inert brute elements. As one who has all infinity to waste, she scatters the seed of the Eternal's strength on a half-animate and crumbling mold, plants heaven's delight in the heart's passionate mire, pours Godhead's seekings into a bare beast frame, hides immortality in a mask of death. Once more that will put on an earthly shape, a mind empowered from truth's immutable seat was framed for vision and interpreting act, and instruments were sovereignly designed to express divinity in terrestrial signs.
Thank you. So, in a sense, he contrasts her with our humanity and with Earth. We, our fallen minds, forget to climb. Our human stuff resists or breaks. But she keeps her will that hopes to divinize clay. And then he emphasizes that even more, how that powerful will has persisted through all the ages to divinize clay, how it's worked, and how failure cannot repress or defeat or throw. Time cannot weary her, nor the void subdue. The ages have not made her passionless. No victory she admits of death or fate. Always she drives the soul to new attempt. So always she persists, this will persists in the evolution, and she represents that will. Once more that will took on an earthly shape, he says. Mm. Mm. Yeah, there, and also this to divinize clay. So let's continue.
Outlined by the pressure of this new descent, a lovelier body formed than earth had known. As yet a prophecy only and a hint, the glowing arc of a charmed unseen whole, it came into the sky of mortal life, bright like the crescent horn of a gold moon, returning in a faint illumined eve. At first, glimmering like an unshaped idea, passive she lay sheltered in wordless sleep, involved and drowned in matter's giant trance, an infant heart of deep-caved world plan, a cradle of divine unconscience rocked by the universal ecstasy of the suns. Some missioned power in the half-vacant frame nursed a transient birth's dumb, glorious seed for which this vivid tenement was made. But soon the link of soul with the form grew sure. Flooded was a dim cave with slow, conscient light. The seed grew into a delicate, marvelous bud. The bud disclosed a great and heavenly bloom. At once she seemed to found a mightier race.
Thank you. Let's pause. So here we have what might be called her infancy. She's just taking form, waking up into the life, still immersed more or less in her physical being, her mind still not awakening. So, outlined by the pressure of this new descent, a lovelier body formed than earth had known. As yet a prophecy only and a hint. It's just the beginning. She's not fully formed yet. A glowing arc of a charmed unseen whole. It came into the sky of mortal life, bright like the crescent horn of a gold moon, returning in a faint illumined eve. So at first she's like an unshaped idea, passive. She lay sheltered in wordless sleep, involved and drowned in matter's giant trance, an infant heart of the deep-caved world plan. So as if what she carries within is still hidden within the cave. Her work, her mission for the evolution, for the world plan, still held within, in cradle of divine inconscience, rocked by the universal ecstasy of the suns. She's not in the cradle. Yeah, it's the early beginning. Exactly what stage, it's not clear. But now, as her body forms, soon the link of soul with form grew sure. Flooded was the dim cave with slow, conscient light. The seed grew into a delicate, marvelous bud. The bud disclosed a great and heavenly bloom. At once she seemed to found a mightier race. So here she's out of the womb. She's come and she's seems already to express that divinity that she brought with her. She's become conscious of herself, of her soul. And then he'll describe this more, I think, in the next passage. Yeah. Yeah, it's a vision of the future. I'm sorry, what? Faint, returning in a faint illumined eve. Well, he's giving an image of her still forming, first he said the glowing arc of a charmed, unseen whole. So you can't see her, she's not the finished being yet. She's still forming. It came into the sky of mortal life, which suggests to me she's born, but bright like the crescent horn of a gold moon returning in a faint illumined eve. So it's as if she's coming back to earth, returning in a new birth.
So I think it reflects the moon here. The new moon returning in the evening. The moon first, then the first or second new moon, the horn shape, and returning to the earth in the evening. That example.
Yeah, he's using this image to describe her, right? So it's her very beginning, just like you're kind of suggesting, just as the new moon, one side of it begins to show a little bit of light, becomes a gold-horned moon, right? So one side of it, it's just glimmering. So, and in a faint eve, kind of suggesting kind of earth in its dimness. At first glimmering like an unshaped idea. So he's just using it as an image to describe her very beginnings. So we'll continue.
Arrived upon the strange and dubious globe, the child, remembering inly a far home, lived guarded in her spirit's luminous cell, alone mid men in her diviner kind. Even in her childish movements could be felt the nearness of a light still kept from earth, feelings that only eternity could share, thoughts natural and native to the gods. As needing nothing but its own rapt flight, her nature dwelt in a strong separate air, like a strange bird with a large colored breast that sojourns on a secret fruited bough, lost in the emerald glory of the woods, or flies above divine unreachable tops. Harmoniously she impressed the earth with heaven, aligned to a swift rhythm of sheer delight, and singing to themselves her days went by. Each minute was a throb of beauty's heart. The hours were turned to a sweet tone content, which asked for nothing, but took all life, gave sovereignly as her nature's inborn right.
Thank you. Perhaps here Sri Aurobindo is also drawing some parallel with the mother, because she also, from her early childhood, was becoming conscious that she was not ordinary person, even I think from early ages of 3, 4, 5, like that. She was becoming conscious. So here we have the child remembering inly a far home. Inwardly she's sensing where she's come from the divine worlds above. And she lived guarded in her spirit's luminous cell. She kind of lived apart within herself, sensing something of her divinity or sensing something of the greatness within her, and sheltering that to some extent from the outer world and the ignorance of others. Alone, mid men in her diviner kind. Even in her childish movements could be felt the nearness of a light still kept from earth, feelings that only eternity could share, thoughts natural and native to the gods. So she has these thoughts and feelings stirring within her already as a very young child. And then, as needing nothing but its own rapt flight, this rapt is engrossed or absorbed or enraptured in her own movement. Her nature dwelt in a strong, separate air, separate from those around her, from the world around her. She carries this atmosphere of divinity or loveliness, beauty, infinity, like a strange bird with large, rich-colored breast that sojourns on a secret fruited bough, lost in the emerald glory of the woods, or flies above divine, unreachable tops. So it's like either she kind of is hidden in the world, from the world, in her rich colored divinity, or she flies far above. Harmoniously, she impressed the earth with heaven. She brings that divinity into her earthly life and form harmoniously, beautifully, aligned to a swift rhythm of sheer delight. And singing to themselves, her days went by. Each minute was a throb of beauty's heart. The hours were tuned to a sweet-toned content, which asked for nothing, but took all life gave, sovereignly as her nature's inborn right. These last lines maybe suggest something that we can also learn from, taking from life what life offers, but not asking, not clinging, not holding, not grasping at things, but just accepting and enjoying what life gives. So we continue.
Shall I hold? Sovereignly as her nature's inborn right. Okay. Near was her spirit to its parent sun, the breath within to the eternal joy. The first fair life that breaks from nature's swoon mounts in a line of rapture to the skies. Absorbed in its own happy urge it lives, sufficient to itself, yet turned to all. It has no seen communion with its world, no open converse with surrounding things. There is a oneness, native and occult, that needs no instruments and erects no form. In unison it grows with all that is. All contacts it assumes into its trance. Laugh-tossed consents to the wind's kiss and takes transmutingly the shocks of sun and breeze. A blissful yearning reaches in its leaves. A magic passion trembles in its blooms. Its boughs aspire in hushed felicity. An occult godhead of this beauty is cause, the spirit and intimate guest of all this charm. This sweetness is priestess and this reverie's muse.
Thank you. It's interesting that throughout this description of Savitri and her birth and development, Sri Aurobindo keeps referring back to images of the spring. He has done that a number of different times in these various passages that we've read. And here also he does. Particularly in these lines, the first fair life that breaks from nature's swoon. So this is the first life coming up in the spring, mounts in a line of rapture to the skies. Absorbed in its own happy urge, it lives, sufficient to itself, yet turned to all. It has no seen communion with its world, no open converse with surrounding things. It's quite interesting, this description, which continues here. There is a oneness, native and occult, that needs no instruments and erects no form. In unison it grows with all that is. So it's just like this growth occurring very naturally, spontaneously, in harmony with all around it. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. It's her, but we might apply it to others. it's something, I mean, he's kind of relating it also just to the spring, I think, and this new life as it emerges. And it comes out spontaneously and it shoots up directly. There's no, kind of thinking or pondering whether I should do this or that. It just, develops naturally. It doesn't have to think about it. Yeah. Mm. In unison, it grows with all that is. All contacts it assumes into its trance. Laugh toss consents to the wind's kiss and takes, transmutingly, the shocks of sun and breeze. A blissful yearning riots in its leaves. A magic passion trembles in its blooms. Its boughs aspire in hushed felicity. So again, this imagery of spring. And then he describes an occult Godhead of this beauty is cause. The spirit and intimate guest of all this charm, this sweetness's priestess and this reverie's muse, suggesting there's a Godhead behind this life emergence. And then he'll describe that more. Next. Helmut?
Invisibly protected from our sense, the dryad lives drenched in a deeper ray and feels another air of storms and calms and quivers inwardly with mystic rain. This at a heavenlier height was shown to her. Even when she bent to meet earth's intimacies, her spirit kept the stature of the gods. It stooped, but was not lost in matter's reign. A world translated was her gleaming mind, a marvel-mooned, bright, crowding fantasies fed with spiritual sustenance of dreams, the ideal goddess in her house of God. Aware of forms to which our eyes are closed, conscious of nearness we cannot feel, the power within her shaped her molding sense in deeper figure than our surface types. An invisible sunlight ran within her veins and flooded her brain with heavenly brilliances that woke a wider sight than earth could know.
Thank you. Here, Sri Aurobindo builds upon that kind of earlier image of the previous passage where he's describing this natural efflorescence of life emerging, going straight upwards towards the heavens. And then here he brings in this a deeper sense of that. Of course, he's applying this all to Savitri, but he says, invisibly protected from our sense. That is, we can't normally feel it. The dryad lives drenched in a deeper ray. So this dryad is a deity or nymph of the woods. Like the fairies, a nymph. These little beings, spirits of nature. So they live drenched in a deeper ray. They're in a deeper communion with this nature and life force. They feel another air of storms and calms and quivers inwardly with the mystic rain. So they feel this vibration of nature on an occult level much more intensely. This, at a heavenlier height, was shown in her. So she has this kind of deep and intimate, intense relation with the forces of nature around her. And even when she bent to meet earth's intimacies, her spirit kept the stature of the gods. She kept this close intimacy with the divine and with nature. It stooped but was not lost in matter's reign. Like we, how all these things are invisibly protected from our sense. We can't see or feel these things. But she keeps that sense. And then a world translated was her gleaming mind. So already her mind is very bright and vibrant. And marvel-mooned, bright, crowding fantasies, fed with spiritual sustenance of dreams, the ideal goddess in her house of gold. Her mind is also informed and in touch with these dreams she may be having, these inner visions she might be sensing. They feed her mind also. And she's aware of forms to which our eyes are closed. She may sense the occult beings around her, the nature spirits. Conscious of nearnesses we cannot feel. The power within her shaped her molding sense in deeper figures than our surface types. She's developing these inward senses that can sense the occult realms. An invisible sunlight ran within her veins and flooded her brain with brilliant, heavenly brilliances that woke a wider sight than earth could know. So I think we stop there.
Describing the period where the child is on a both legs and arms, like crawling. So he says the word, he uses this word, scoop and bend.
Oh.
That stage is describing the child is crawling.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but soon the link of soul with form grew sure. Flooded was the dim cave with slow, constant light. The seed grew into a delicate, marvelous bud. The bud disclosed a great and heavenly bloom. At once she seemed to found a mightier race. Her nature dwelt in a strong, separate air, like a strange bird with large, rich-colored breast that sojourns on a secret, fruited bough, lost in the emerald glory of the woods, or flies above divine, unreachable tops.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.